观众朋友们，大家好，欢迎收看今天的做客侨报节目，我是主持人张建习。今天我们请来的呢是拉瓜迪亚社区学院的院长 Dr. Gail Mellow. Thanks for being here, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
So you were a community college student back to the 80s, and
Yes.
now you are the head of one of the most successful community college, and you are also an expert of community college issues. Since US and China are sharing the different education systems, could you do a brief introduction for our Chinese audience? What is a community college?
Yes. So the community college system is a very unique part of the higher education system, both in the United States, and I've traveled in China and had the opportunity just a little bit to understand, just in a small way, the Chinese system of college. The difference, I think, are very large. In the United States, students go through primary schools when they're little children. They go to 4 years of high school, and then they have to make a decision about where to go to college. There are about 3,000 colleges in the United States. Several million students every year go to college. And a community college is very different in some ways than other colleges. Most colleges you have to apply, and you have to be in the top of your class in order to get in. A community college will take everyone. We're what's called open access. So anyone who applies, who has completed high school, can come to our college. So that's a very big difference. And the colleges are only for 2 years instead of the 4 years that is traditional in the United States. So they're a beginning. And that beginning is important for many students. Sometimes students have to stay at home. They have to take care of their families. They have to work because their families are not wealthy. And so staying at home is often part of being at a community college. You can also go to the community college either as a full-time student going to class every day, or a part-time student. So you can go just part of the day, you can go evenings. We run on Saturday and Sunday. And the third major difference is that the students really focus often on what they want to do, what their job or career should be. So at community colleges, we have students of all different ages. So I think about 7 years ago now, my valedictorian, which is the person who is the highest, the most successful student in the class, was 65 years old.
Wow, 65.
65. She started in her 60s. And certainly we have very traditional age students who are 18 or 19, just finished high school. But community colleges, because they're open, are very flexible, and they can take in students at any age. Because there is no limitation, a lot of times people will come back to college after working. And we want to be able to get you ready. If you were studying science, for example, we want you, as one of our students just did, to win a prize, get a scholarship, go on, get your bachelor's degree, and then keep on going until you get your PhD, until you get your doctorate in science. So you can do all of that from a community college. It's a building block.
So this year, the investment banking firm Goldman Sachs donated $2 million to your school, to Laguardia Community College. So why they choose your school? What makes your school so special?
One of the things that's been very wonderful about being at a community college is doing what we call strategic partnerships. Finding partners who really want to invest in education in order to make a better world. Speak now with the president of Goldman Sachs, a very, very wonderful man whose name is Lloyd Blankfein. And Mr. Blankfein has said to me, at Goldman Sachs, we're good in investments. We're good in knowing how to take a little bit of money and growing it to a lot of money. And he said that community colleges are like that because we are very, very frugal. We do not cost a lot of money for students, and yet when we're successful, the growth is tremendous. And so Mr. Blankfein really wants to invest in the talent, in the human capital of the United States, because he knows that's where you build a future.
Did you, LaGuardia Community College, also get some like internship or a working relationship with the Goldman Sachs?
One of the programs Goldman Sachs came to LaGuardia for, now almost 4 years ago, was a program for small businesses. It's called 10,000 Small Businesses. And what Goldman Sachs wanted to do was find a community college that could be a partner. So LaGuardia was its anchor community college, meaning it's first, and we built the program on that anchor. And what they wanted to do was to find ways to help businesses that were already in motion get better. We created a program that was very, very practical. It doesn't lead to a degree. It helps people who are already in business learn to do better with their businesses. So the business owners come to LaGuardia for about 100 hours. It's not very long, it's pretty short, but it's very focused on what they need to do to grow their business. And with the Goldman Sachs support, the curriculum is very strong. The businesses who come in are so happy. But once they complete the program, over half of them are more successful in that same year than they were the year before. They've brought in millions of dollars themselves in getting capital from the banks in order to grow their businesses. And more than half of them have hired new employees. So working with a community college, Goldman has shown that very focused education for people already running those businesses can make those businesses stronger. And that has been a wonderful, wonderful thing, both for the companies and for the community colleges that work with them. I think they're now in 10 different cities in the United States. We have a very interesting program at LaGuardia where we want to get people better in English, but also in their heritage language. So in your case, it would be in Chinese or in Mandarin for the most part. And so we work with students. I have a student who came to us. He had only been in the United States for 2 years. He spoke some English. He learned it in China, but he didn't understand what I would call colloquial English. It was hard for him to really talk to people in the streets, even though he could read all right, but talking was very hard. So he came to LaGuardia, but he was young and he had never been in business. So he knew sophisticated Chinese, but he didn't know the language of business. Like he couldn't go to a professional meeting. He didn't know the rules and the ways to behave. So he came to LaGuardia and is beginning to learn those things. He now has a resume in both English and in Mandarin. He can do an interview in English and in Mandarin. And he just got an internship for the largest bank in China. He's going to go back to China and take that internship. But you can imagine how wonderful that is. Now that he's grabbed onto, he's hugged onto his heritage language of Chinese, of Mandarin, and is able to speak like a professional. He will now understand sort of the business world in China, but he'll also understand an American business world. And we consider those students ambassadors. They can go to both places. And so I think serving the Chinese community really creates a better world for the business community. I think it creates more peace and prosperity in both of our countries and allows us to understand each other better. So I think the role of community colleges in that is very, very important.
We know that going to business school is always like burning the money. And you also mentioned that a lot of people went to go to the community school. They are like not that much rich.
Yes.
So how about the tuition fee if you want to go to a community college?
It's about $5,000 for the entire year.
Entire year, $5,000. Wow.
For students who live in New York City.
Okay.
It's more if you are an international student. It's probably a little more, almost 3 times more if you're an international student. And because our international students often need support, we direct most of our scholarship money to international students and to what in the United States is called an undocumented student, because we want to make sure if they're going to stay in the United States, we want them to be successful, and we want them to contribute to society. The real competition in our world is the competition for human talent, for creativity, for innovation, for hard work. And I think we find in dealing with our students who come from a Chinese heritage, we find all of those things.
You mentioned Chinese. That I searched online that in 2013, 17% of the students in Laguardia Community College are from China.
Yes.
You are also holding the 2015 Asian Heritage Month event.
Yeah.
How many Chinese students do you have now in Laguardia Community College?
Well, it's probably close to 10,000 students.
10,000?
Yes.
In school now?
In school now. One of the things that we find very important is that many times students have very high aspirations for the most elite colleges in the United States, Princeton, Harvard, Yale. I know Chinese parents, they all want their kids to go there.
Tiger mom.
Tiger moms, yeah. Right. But sometimes students are not ready for that. But what we have found is that by coming to a place like LaGuardia Community College and taking advantage of all that we have to offer, those students then get propelled into those colleges. So we do have students who go to Vassar and who go to Smith and who go to Columbia. And they would have never gotten in had they tried as a first-year freshman. But LaGuardia helps them realize their potential. Like, they see all of the things that they can do, and they expand their vision, and they think, I can do that, and so they do.
And there are also a lot of Chinese, we call them Americanborn Chinese,
yes.
ABC.
Yes.
As you see, is there much difference between these two group of people, the ABC and the international Chinese students?
Well, I think part of it, culture is important. And I think if you're an American-born Chinese, you have your family who's telling you about culture. Mm-hmm. But you've always grown up in an American culture, and you're just more comfortable in your own skin. You know the rules, you know the language, you know facial expressions, you know how to shake hands in a certain way. And I think that it's my role as a college president to make a bridge for the students who are not born in the United States. That bridge will get you to the same place, but you need a helping hand. You need someone to show that to you. Because we have people from many ages, there was a woman in her, to me it's young, but for my students it was sort of old, in her 50s. And she was coming back to school, and she was studying in the nursing program. And because she had been in China for almost for all of her adult life, she was very shy about speaking English. She could understand it, she could read and write it. She did not want to speak it because she knew her accent was hard to understand, so she was very shy. And at LaGuardia, we have something called an electronic portfolio, where students keep an electronic compendium of their major activities, their major work, how their classes connect to each other. And the students were reading each other's, and they realized that this woman had run a 100-bed hospital in China. All of a sudden, all the nursing students were like, we want you to help us, come help us, come help us, and tell us and help us learn this. And so she became the tutor. She taught everybody. It was funny because they learned so much from her practical experience and her wisdom, but they also forced her to speak. Yeah. And so it's that bridge that I think is really important. But I do think there are differences. But sometimes when you were born in the United States, your parents struggled, but you didn't struggle. So sometimes people who have been born and wanted to come to the United States and took the sacrifices, they're going to work harder because they have a deeper sense of motivation. In
2004, it's very interesting that you went to Beijing 11 years ago to join the first U.S.-China Community College Collaborative Conference meeting as the representative of the U.S. So do you still remember some details about the meeting and or some impression about China?
Yes. Well, one of the things for us in the United States, I think, to see is the way in which education is so highly valued in China, just so highly valued. it's like wonderful for us to see. So there's that part that we really, really understood and liked a great deal. I also saw China's commitment to open more and more colleges. They're very interested in that. But I also saw the challenge of doing that when you have so many who want to and need to go to college, and still you don't have a lot of opportunity for them. So I saw a lot of things that are hard. So I saw students who were working for colleges where they were sending them out into the streets of Beijing to like try and get you to buy things, and you know, it's just that there wasn't, it's so hard there that there's, and it's so enormous, that there were lots of pockets of people sort of, I'm going to use a hard word, exploiting the students who they had to make more money for a private college. And so I also saw the challenge of, as you expand a college without clear rules for everybody, that it can get chaotic. And I think we see some of that in the United States as well, with what I call for-profit colleges, who are very interested in making money from you, but maybe not so interested in giving you the education that's going to make a difference in your life. So I see those same kind of tensions, but I saw it first on the streets of Beijing, I think. I also think that there's the elasticity of the community college, how flexible we are, sometimes makes it hard to translate to a Chinese culture. So some of the places that I went to looked exactly like a community college to me. They were very serious, they had professors, but other places looked more like a community education, so how to dance or how to draw, and that's wonderful, but that won't move you towards a degree. So I saw all of that in China. And so you could see this huge country taking a step in a very new direction. It was very, very interesting to me.
When you were in Beijing, do you remember which school you visited?
We were at the University of Beijing, so I got to see a very sophisticated, very advanced college. We went to a community college, pretty new, whose focus was on marketing, and I brought back with me this wonderful, I'm going to call it a picture, but it was leather, and the artist had made an image by pressing into the leather, sort of incising it. And it was, he said, "This is my image of Beijing." And what it was only legs of people in their shoes, all scrunched together. And he said, "That's how I think of Beijing, everyone really tight and packed." But they were experimenting, they were on, this was quite a while ago, so they were thinking about social media and the kind of images you would need in social media and how to really use that to both express yourself and also for marketing and communication. China's focus is really on building universities. Like, they don't have enough universities to really deal with that, as I always say, the top of the pyramid. So I can understand why, if you didn't have that, you'd want that. And as I have read about China and spoken with people, that really is their focus, to really look at that. China has also been very interested in partnerships with business and industry, so all of that is moving. I think China's next step will be to deal more with broadening who goes to college, and I think that's where the appropriate move to community college would be.
So the bottom of the pyramid.
Yes, the bottom, or even, let's say, even the middle.
We have a lot of overseas Chinese here, so they gather to build a community.
Yes.
And we also know that Laguardia Community College always have a good relationship with these Chinese communities. So have you ever cooperate with certain Chinese communities to achieve certain goals?
I'll talk about one event that we did in Flushing, Queens, with the Chinese business community. And so there's a Chinese business community organization at that point. He's now on the city council, Peter Koo, but at that point he was a member of the Laguardia Foundation board. And he said, look, I need the Chinese small businesses to understand more about the rules and regulations of New York City. Because if they don't do things correctly, they might be fined by the city, they might lose their license, they might lose their property. Like, you need to help us. And so one of the things that we did was offer business programs in Mandarin, in Chinese, to the business community. Talking about very basic things, like if you're going to have a push cart, this is what you need from the New York City Department of Hygiene. This is what you need. This is where you can park. This is where you can't park. Very basic things. Increasingly, we want Chinese businesses to grow. So another piece that we have done is really help through our Small Business Development Center, which is on the campus of LaGuardia Community College in Long Island City. We offer business counseling in Chinese so that the Chinese can come and they say, like, you know, I don't speak English very well. Can we speak Chinese? Yes, you can speak Chinese. And so how do I start a business? What's a franchise like? Where should I locate my business? All of those kinds of things. How do I apply for a loan? For immigrant businesses, sometimes we have to tell them, you know what, you're going to have to open a bank account. They're like, I don't want to. I like it in my box.
They prefer to keep the cash.
Exactly. We're like, then you'll never get a loan. We've got to do this. We also really want to work with the Chinese community to highlight the beauty of the Chinese culture. So at LaGuardia, we offer courses in Mandarin 1 and 2. We also offer Chinese literature in translation. We also offer Chinese literature in Chinese.
Okay.
So that, because those American-born Chinese students often can read and write, they don't know the culture in this funny way. They you know, Saturday morning they did whatever mom said at the Chinese school, and now they want to get a more adult sense of what China was doing. We have had Chinese opera. We, in the next 2 weeks, we're going to have a wonderful presentation. One of our former board members, an incredible woman, Tai Wang, who runs a manufacturing company, is herself a beautiful singer and has loved the Chinese folk songs. And so she has a chorus, the Chinese chorus, which will come sing the folk songs. They do it so the translations are behind them, so you're like both hearing it in English and in Chinese. So in all of those ways, we want to support the Chinese community in knowing its culture and in thriving in New York City and in Long Island City.
Is there anything that you want to say to those potential Chinese students, maybe in mainland China, maybe here? They are trying to learn something, but they didn't get the way yet. Yeah. Is there anything you want to say to them?
I would want them to understand that a community college is really an open place, that it's open for students who are very traditional aged. It's open for people who are in their 20s and 30s and 40s, which can be a very different thing. That the faculty at LaGuardia really understand Chinese students and understand that the American-born Chinese sort of get the American, but if you are coming from another country, we understand how to help you think about college, how to make sure that you're lined up right, and also that we're very much a place of celebration. So coming to LaGuardia Community College, you will see other Chinese students, you'll recognize them. We hear Chinese spoken, we hear Mandarin spoken, we actually also hear Cantonese spoken in the halls. And so it's very much a welcoming place.
Great. Thanks for joining us today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.